trust me. You're the one person I do trust, Charlie Walker.
Awesome. How's it doing? My name is Niger Chambers. I am the owner of Big Gold Belt Media. Sophia, it's a pleasure to talk to you today.
Likewise, Niger. Nice to meet you.
We're gonna. You have a lot of energy. I've been checking out your stuff, trying to prepare for this. And beyond that, like being from the Bay Area, is something about you all. It's like an extra pep in your step. It reminds me much. I'm from the DMV on the East Coast, and it's like we're distant cousins. How we just carry ourselves, like how much pride we take into our respective areas. So yeah, absolutely. We're gonna have some fun for sure. But yeah, let's talk about the film. I'm Charlie Walker. This is a film that immediately when I watched it, I told somebody, and I was like, oh, whoops, embargo. All right, don't say nothing. Because it was one of those things, and I think we're starting to kind of discover more and more Black history, more and more African-American history, stories we have never heard, stories that might have been suppressed. And you know, these are the rich stories that you hear through your family's blood, and you hear those, you know, family reunions and gatherings and stuff like that. So watching this, I felt really, really prideful. I wanted to know, for you stepping into it, what was sort of just the badge of honor getting this role, and also considering what had happened with a previous film before this. I also like the idea of the whole when one door closed, another one's open, and that type of blessing kind of manifesting for you. So like considering all of those things and taking this role, what was sort of the thoughts for you?
That's so beautifully put, I have to say. I think that one of the things that spoke to me about this role and this movie is that exactly what you said about the fact that we have so many unsung heroes in our community, so many people who broke down barriers, so many people who were the first um, of something. My grandmother was the first Black teacher in Springfield, Massachusetts. And, you know, all of those stories don't get told. All those stories don't get to be told. And so it's an honor to be a part of a story that is told and that gets to live on, so people know that this happened, that this is real. Because otherwise it does live on in like our stories and us telling folks and da da da. But there's something about when the collective gets to bear witness to that story, it makes it even more real and concrete. So it's just an honor, an absolute honor to do that.
Yeah, awesome. Beautifully said. Something else I learned from you is that you're very, when it comes down to your craft, you take a lot of pride into it. You do a lot of research and knowledge, and you just take the approach you would hope a lot of people would take in terms of just making sure that, like, if you're going to project it, you know what you're talking about, you know what you're feeling, you're true to that. You see that within your music. I've seen that in a webinar that you have presented as well too. Very informative, which makes me think, even stepping into a role like this, that it just wasn't good enough to be handed a script and say, here, go. Yeah. So want to know what was sort of your research and process with the character and person Ann Walker, and how did you kind of mold this character to become yours?
Yeah, I think that first of all, I had a good base, because I felt like even reading the script and the sides, I knew who this person was, because I felt like my mother was this person. My father started an art gallery in Oakland, California in the 80s. And like, you know, she was raising me and raising us and holding it down. And I feel like, so I understood what it meant to do that. And as well as that, you know, I feel like one of the things when I take it apart, or any part, is like the words, you know, like I gotta be intimate with the words. I gotta know like what we're saying, like why we're saying it at this moment in time. And so all of those things kind of just help me craft this and help me figure out the core of who this person is, the core of Anne, and what it means to support any Black man in any time, but especially this Black man in this time period doing what he is doing. And I really, really related to that.
Yeah. You know, as they always say, behind every good man is a good Black woman, strong Black woman. And she not only was that, but the anchor of the family. I also think pretty much the anchor of the operations as well. Somebody that kept him grounded, as we see him just become more and more courageous, and basically walking through uncharted territories. Was there anything in your research that surprised you about Anne, that you wanted to make sure that was represented correctly?
That's a great question. I don't think that there was anything that surprised me. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that these were both two very smart, intelligent people, and that they had a certain amount of integrity. And those were the things that were kind of important to me to kind of bring forward. But there was nothing that surprised me, just because I think there are so many similar threads, just like you were saying in the beginning, DMV, Oakland. I'm like, oh yeah, we get it, like we're just so connected, so I really felt that connection more than anything.
Yeah. A part of her character, and I want to know, what do you feel about like the current climates of the world in terms of her positioning with her family? There was a scene where Anne and Charlie had a difficult conversation about what he was doing, how he would be represented, how would he be viewed through society. And your character looked over to the kids and said, hey, we don't say that word in this house. Do you feel like the tone of these type of difficult conversations have changed? Do you think we resort to the same strategy, or you think we become a little bit more transparent about these things, considering, well, this movie was years and years ago, but we kind of look around, things haven't changed too much.
No, they haven't changed at all. And I think what it is that the content changes, right?
Yeah.
That's less of a debate now, right? Yeah. Whether or not we say it or who's like, but everyone does have a different opinion. Everybody raises their kids differently, in terms of that word, in terms of certain rhetoric. So that is something that I think is definitely a common theme. But I think the content changes. It's like at that time, figuring out our relationship to that word was definitely something we were trying to navigate. We were trying to figure out, like, what do we think about this? I know we've been using it, like, to each other, but where people kind of are hearing it now, and then you think about hip hop, and where that took it, it's a whole other level. So I think it's just like what we are talking about is always changing, and you always have the opportunity to, when you're raising children, to influence them and say, like, what are the standards in this household? What do we do here? Because it's like, it is one thing to do that with your friends, but it's another thing to say, in this house, we don't curse. In this house, we don't use that word. In this house, this is what we do. So, I think that kind of always holds true.
Yeah. Yeah. My biggest high on this film, outside of the performances, was the script. I thought it was written fantastic. I thought it was a very, a very easily digestible way to consume, at times, a very heavy subject matter, while also delivering history, but also still keeping it kind of lighthearted and cynical at times and whatnot. Just wanted to kind of know your thoughts about the script and your character, and some of the banter. You and Mike had amazing chemistry together. You would almost think that you all kind of grew up together. Amazing chemistry. But just kind of your thoughts about working with him and the script.
Yeah. So in terms of the script, I know that when I read it, I was thinking, like, wow, this is really, this is good. And also, like, this character, I was like, oh, I really understand this character. And I think that's sometimes hard, I think sometimes people are, especially with women, they can be written kind of wooden or kind of like in a generic way. And I just didn't feel that at all. I really understood the heart. I really understood everything that she was saying, and why she was saying it, when she was saying it. So the script really struck me, and working with Mike was absolutely wonderful. Like, we just hit it off. It's just one of those things where, like, and it's just such a blessing, because it's an independent film and it's a short process. So it's like, you don't have a lot of time to, like, make friends. So it's nice to be like, oh, great. Like, we're going to be cool. This is going to be great. We don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
I of course I've never worked with him, but I met him at a time, and we looked at each other because we had the same Jordans on. And he was just like, my guy. I was like, yeah, my guy.
Exactly. He's a cool dude. He's a cool dude.
Yeah. So and then if that wasn't enough, you're so, again, doing my research, and your voice is like majestic. Like you just kind of just have to just stop and just take it in. Like it's very puts me at ease to a point I was like, oh, I gotta do an interview today. Let me not kick back too much. I think they made the right call. The narration of this film.
Yeah.
So once you were done that thing, I'm guessing it was like, so by the way,
yeah, totally. Because it wasn't, that wasn't the original plan. And it was like, oh, and I was like, oh, but when we talked about it, when I talked about the producer, it was like, oh, that makes total sense. It makes total sense that she would, because it also allows her to be more present throughout the story.
Yep.
And she does know the whole story because it's, that's her husband. So it's like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. So it was an absolute pleasure to do. But yeah, it was like, and now you're gonna do this. I was like, okay.
So what was the process? Because I'm assuming the filming was during the pandemic. So were you at a studio? Did they kind of give you a mobile booth, or did you already have a studio sort of set at home since you are constantly doing vocal work?
Yeah, I was actually remote at the time because I was doing a play. So, but technology, booth,
Yeah.
Zoom, FaceTime, like record engineer over there, like it's all good. Like, you know what I mean? You don't really. So yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I hear about the Zoom table reads and everything.
Oh,
yeah. We figured it out during the pandemic.
Oh, that's real. That's real. We sure did.
We as I referenced your work with music, I would be remiss if I didn't ask. Very, very light question, but I would assume very impactful for you. It's just, what does music mean to you?
Oh yeah, music. Well, music is everything. It's just kind of I realized I especially realized this during the pandemic because I also like to listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of talky things, and I realized that when I'm listening to music though, it always has the power to put you in a state, and I always feel like when I am translating songs through my voice, translating story, it feels like it feels divine. That's the only way to put it. And so I really take that very seriously. I take that whole mission I take my whole mission as an artist very seriously. So thank you for acknowledging that and saying that.
Absolutely. My final two questions I'm gonna ask you is I would love to know, how would you describe Ann Walker? If you wanted somebody to watch this film and to completely understand, and although the film is I Am Charlie Walker, which focuses on him, as you just said, this film, she was there the entire time.
Right.
So what would you want the audience sort of perception, or how would you describe her, and that reaction you would want people to take from out of the film?
Yeah, I think I would describe her as a formidable Black woman who has sacrificed and is sacrificing for her family, for her husband, and needs no praise in return for that, but is a completely formidable and smart and charismatic and just an amazing person.
I will concur. And my last question for you for the evening is overall, because I mean, again, this film, it makes you laugh. It may at points could be triggering to some. But overall, it's a piece of our history that many may never heard of. But now, we put this in the ranks of other accomplishments that we've done. And just the ones who just, like I said, the unsung heroes at times are doing a catastrophe in American history. So if you had to tell somebody to watch this film, what would ultimately be the reason why?
I would say you need to watch this film because there are so many unsung Black heroes. There are so many Black people that broke down a barrier so that we could live the life that we live and have the technology that we have and make the strides that we've had, not only as people, but as Americans, as human beings on this planet. And so I think it's important to watch this story because you get to see somebody and all of the things that they had to fight against to do what they did, and to respect that and say, see, look at what happened. Look at what all he had to do this one thing, really for everybody. You know, he wasn't cleaning up the oil for himself.
Right.
He was doing it because it was an environmental crisis.
Yeah.
That was for everybody. And so when we put these barriers in folks' way because of our own egos, because of some BS, it does nothing for the collective. And I hope that people will come away knowing that not only do they have the power to make those changes in their own life, but this person did it in 1970 something and nobody even knows their name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said. Well, folks, I suggest, but you heard it from her mouth as well too. You want to check out this film. It was and to be honest, as a short film, it unloads a lot. It's a ride. It's fun. It has a lot of good moments, a lot of good information, a lot of good feels, amazing performances such as yourself. I love you, Mike's banter, and just that chemistry that you two have. And I'm absolutely looking for more from you. So, you know, let's just keep putting that good energy out in the air. Right. And for the folks that might have slept on you before, they're going to wake up now for sure. They're going to see this and going to be like, man.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. But it's been a pleasure to talk to you. And hopefully we get to do it again soon.
Likewise. You take care.
Thank you so much. Yeah.